Hey, my friend, and welcome to Aligned to Rise, the podcast for ambitious women who are ready to rise above their symptoms, release old limitations, and fully rise into their true power and potential. I'm your host, Alyssa Chavez, functional nutritionist, performance coach, and former endo and infertility warrior who knows what it's like to feel held back by your body and your beliefs. I've taken a journey of true healing from the inside out so that I can show up feeling great in my body, confident and unstoppable. And now I'm here to help you do the same. Through a blend of functional nutrition and deep mindset work, this show will empower you to reclaim your vitality, trust your intuition, and live unapologetically in your purpose. If you're ready to align your body, mind, and spirit so you can rise to your highest potential, you're in the right place. Let's rise, my friend. This show was created for educational purposes only and should not be used as a replacement for medical advice or treatment. Hey, my friend, and welcome back to Aligned to Rise. This is a very special episode because this is episode number 100, which is hard for me to believe. Pretty crazy. It has been almost 2 years of me recording this podcast every single week. And I have to say, when I first hit record on episode 1, I had no idea just how much this podcast right here would change me and how much I would enjoy it. Truly, it's one of my absolute favorite things that I do every week, talking to you guys, sharing with you all of the things that I've learned along the way. And 100 episodes later, here we are. Not just me with a mic and a mission, but a full heart, a full client load, and the biggest sense of alignment that I've ever felt in my journey. I am so incredibly thankful for each and every one of you for showing up each week, hitting play, tuning into the show while you're driving or walking or cooking or just sitting on your couch. I am so thankful to each and every one of you for being here and sharing this journey with me, even if this is the first episode that you have listened to. So, what I'd like to do for episode 100, I knew I had to mark it in some kind of special way. So what I'd like to do today is walk you through the 10 most powerful lessons that have come out of the most impactful episodes, client stories, and life shifts over these last 100 episodes so that you can take them with you on your own healing journey. So let's dive in, my friend. Okay, lesson number 1. Nutrition is powerful, but it's not everything. So this is something I've talked about quite a bit on the podcast. So the very, very first episode, which honestly is still one of my most popular episodes, I believe it actually has the most downloads of any episode. It's called The 5 Most Important Things That You Need to Know About Nutrition for Endometriosis. And that was episode number 1. And this is also taking some of the lessons learned from some other episodes. What is the best diet for endometriosis, which was episode number 2. And then there was also episode number 34, Demystifying the Endometriosis Diet. Now, these episodes are really centered around endometriosis, particularly because that was the sole focus of the podcast for the first 93 episodes. So that's where a lot of the episodes have been geared towards. But truly, the message there can apply to anything. So if you're here because of other chronic symptoms, you're struggling with gut stuff or hormone stuff or whatever's going on in your body, this message is for you as well. So when I first started my healing journey, nutrition really was my anchor. That's really the first thing that I dove into on my own journey. So really diving into anti-inflammatory foods and changing up my diet, reducing the amount of processed foods that I was eating more whole foods, focusing on healthy fats and protein and fiber and all of the things that I talk about all the time. And truly, it made an enormous difference in my body. It really did. But over the years here, the deeper that I've gotten into my healing journey, the more I've realized that food is really only one piece of the puzzle. Is it super important? Yes. but it's a piece of the puzzle. Because at the end of the day, you can eat all the right foods, you can be eating a perfect diet, but something might still feel off. And it doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong, you're not eating a clean enough diet. It may just mean that you need some healing on another level of your body because there's so many pieces. So what I've learned is that food can be medicine, but it's not the only medicine. So if nutrition hasn't fixed everything for you, it's not a failure. It's simply an invitation to explore deeper. And that's really what my journey has been all about. All right, lesson number 2, there's no one-size-fits-all diet. This is another one that I've talked about across multiple episodes when I was looking back through the past 99 episodes, which is a lot to go through, but I really wanted to make an impact with this episode and share with you all of the best things that I've learned along the way, and this is one of the big ones. So I used to think, and I think this is fairly common amongst so many people because I hear this question all the time of just what is in the endo diet or what is the perfect diet to eat in general? Like what is it that you should be focusing on? What are the foods that you should be eating? And I used to think that there was some perfect formula, and if I found that right formula, everything would click together. And what I've learned along the way, and I know I've talked about this a lot on the podcast, is that the best diet is really the one that works best for your body and that evolves with your needs over time. You may not have the exact same dietary needs for your entire life, and that's okay. You also might not have the same exact dietary needs as your friend or your spouse or your child or some random stranger on the internet. It's about figuring out what works best for your unique body in that moment and nobody else's. So, of course, I've worked a lot with myself on nutrition over the years. I've also worked with dozens of clients over the years, and every client I've worked with has responded differently to different foods, supplements, protocols. And so the biggest takeaway that I've had there is that bioindividuality is key. So quit chasing the rules and start listening to your own inner wisdom, your own intuition instead. All right, lesson number 3. Functional nutrition has changed my life, and it's not about just fixing the symptoms. So if you're unfamiliar with functional nutrition, and that's really the root of what I do as a practitioner here, I am a functional nutritionist, definitely go back and check out episode number 3, one of the early ones. What is functional nutrition and how can it help with endo? Now again, that episode is specifically geared towards endo. This was back when the podcast here was the Endo Belly Girl podcast, which you may remember because it wasn't actually all that long ago. We are only 6 episodes into this being Aligned to Rise. However, that episode can definitely apply to you even if you don't have endometriosis. You can hear about what functional nutrition really is. And who knows, maybe I'll do an updated episode before too long where I can share with you how functional nutrition can support different areas of life, gut health and hormone balance and all the things that I really love to talk about as well. So what I've really discovered along the way is that functional nutrition has given me a new lens at just looking at the body and symptoms and how things are working. So what I used to think a whole lot of is, how do I make this go away? I'm in pain. I am feeling moody. I am having all of these symptoms come up. I am bloated, all of the things. And my first instinct, like so many of us, I think, was, how do I make this go away? And now the question that I ask with this new lens, well, it's not actually that new anymore. I've been in a functional nutrition practice for quite some time now, but relatively new in the grand scheme of my life. And that question is, why is this happening? Why is this symptom happening instead of just, how do I make this go away? And that has in turn caused me to really look for root causes, things like gut imbalances, liver function, stress load, nutrient deficiencies, all of the things that can really impact the way that we feel and the symptoms that are coming up. Because at the end of the day, symptoms are simply your body's way of communicating And so rather than just shutting down the communication, what if we instead learn to listen to that and figure out how to give our bodies what they really are asking for, what they really need? And that, my friend, is how you really bring yourself into alignment. I absolutely love using tools like functional labs. So I use a lot of stool testing, blood work, hormone testing, all of the things, not just for data, but also for insight and clarity as to where all of this is coming from. It really allows me to put all those pieces together. So for example, I feel like I have a lot of my clients have come to me saying they've tried everything. They've changed their diet. They've done this, they've done that. And then they finally actually see the needle move, finally make progress when we dive into gut health or just supporting nutrients or some combination of those things. So biggest takeaway there, you don't need a quick fix for your symptom. Maybe sometimes we do in the moment as well, and that's okay. But what you really need is a personalized map back to your health, back to bring your body back into alignment. All right, lesson number 4, and this is a powerful one. Your body is not broken. And this is a message that I feel like kept coming up across multiple episodes. I even just talked about this very recently in episode number 88, which is actually called You Are Not Broken. Super powerful episode if you haven't checked that one out yet. But I think it's so important to really be aware of that because this kind of relates to the last one. But there was a time when I really believed and felt like my body was betraying me. I actually felt like I was broken. I was super frustrated and honestly quite defeated. I would say things all the time like, well, my body just doesn't work. Or my body just doesn't do the things that it's supposed to do, and would just constantly beat myself up and bash and all of the things. But what I've learned is that at every moment in time, my body is actually working for me. Even something like pain or bloating or those uncomfortable symptoms, as I mentioned before, it's really a form of communication. So the shift that I've taken is from blaming my body and being upset with my body and yelling at my body to actually supporting my body and loving my body and thanking my body for communicating what it needs to communicate. And that truly has changed everything. So big takeaway on that one. What if your symptoms are actually your body's innate wisdom speaking up, asking for support? What if you were to just shift your perspective on that just a little bit? All right, lesson number 5, halfway there, my friend. Energy work and mindset and all of the things are just as real as food and supplements. So again, this is something that I've talked about a lot on the podcast across multiple episodes. It's definitely something that I've been covering a lot recently and will be continuing to cover in upcoming episodes. But this is something I feel like I've been kind of discovering/rediscovering. So I actually first discovered my yoga and meditation practice. I believe I first started that when I was about 18 or 19 years old. So fairly young. I actually first got certified to teach yoga when I was about 21. So again, pretty young, and really dug deep into the spiritual practice and meditation and really experienced a lot of just personal transformation at a young age and really enjoyed that. And it's been a part of my life ever since. I'm now 36 years old and I still practice yoga regularly. I actually even still teach classes at a local yoga studio simply because I love staying connected to that world and really do enjoy that. So that's been a huge part of my journey. But in more recent years, I've also added in a lot more systems and support and all the things for my nervous system, for my mental health, all of the things. So things like breath work and journaling. I've talked about this a little bit on the podcast, and I will definitely be talking about it a lot more in upcoming episodes, but I've recently connected with NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. Super fascinating stuff, all about rewiring, reprogramming the subconscious mind. Absolutely love that stuff. but even just starting to reframe and shift the way that you think about things and look at things. It's that whole thing where when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I can't tell you how many examples I've seen of that in my personal life. But I've started to realize that the more that I focus on supporting my stress and my emotional body, the better that my physical body responded. So I used to focus primarily on the nutrition and supplements and gut health and all of the things. And I still do that, absolutely. I'm still very aware of my diet. I still take supplements every day. However, I also really spend a lot of time and energy focusing on how I feel and supporting my mental and emotional health. And I found that to be extremely powerful in my healing journey as well. And I truly believe that mindset and emotions and energy are really foundational to healing, along with everything else that we do. So, big takeaway on that is that you can't out-supplement or even out-diet a dysregulated nervous system. In fact, if things are out of whack there, that's really where you want to start, is supporting your nervous system. All right, my friend, lesson number 6. You are so much more than your diagnosis. So, this is a big one, and this was actually a very recent episode number 98, which was just a couple of episodes ago, but it really has been a powerful transformation for me, and I know so many other people, but definitely go back and check out this episode. I will link to all of these in the show notes, by the way. If you're listening on the go, you can go back and check out some of these episodes I'm talking about at a later date if you haven't heard those yet. But for years, my identity was so very wrapped up in being an endo warrior. And while I still honor that part of me, it has been a part of my journey for sure. I have realized that I am so much more, and quite frankly, so are you. I am also a wife, a daughter, a dancer. I don't actively dance so much anymore, but my background was as a classical ballet dancer. I am a coach. I am a friend. I am a doggy mama. I am so many things that I absolutely love to be, and that's all part of me as well. It's not just about being an endo warrior. And honestly, that was a big part of the rebrand of the podcast, the expansion of what's happening here with my brand and my company, is that I wanted to include so much more, because you, my friend, are so much more. Whether you have endo or anything else that might be going on in your body, you, my friend, are so much more. And I think that's so important to be aware of, because I know for me, when I stopped focusing so much energy on my diagnosis and how to overcome and all the things, I have really felt more joy, more freedom, more happiness, and just more me. So big takeaway on that is that you are allowed to expand beyond your diagnosis, your symptoms, your pain, whatever is going on. Your diagnosis is a part of your story, but it's not the whole thing. All right, lesson number 7. Client transformations aren't magic. They're the result of safety, strategy, and soul. So I have been working one-on-one with clients for years now, and I've worked with a lot of endometriosis clients. I've also worked with a lot of clients who have had various gut and hormonal things going on, from PCOS to just extreme bloating and food sensitivities, having chronic diarrhea or constipation or stomach pain, heartburn, nausea, all these different things, experiencing PMS symptoms, moodiness, period symptoms, ovulation symptoms, you name it, so many different things. And really seeing my clients transform and going from being in pain to being at peace, going from being bloated to finding balance, from infertility to actually experiencing motherhood, has been the most rewarding part of this work. And these shifts happen because of consistent support, personalized plans, and even deep trust between my clients and myself. So just a few of my favorite client journeys who I know I've shared some of these on the podcast before, but just some of the stories that I've seen along the way. I've seen women with endometriosis go from being in extreme pain and discomfort, having to rely on pain medications, to actually being pain-free, feeling pretty good during periods, and just being able to live life again. I have seen women come to me with digestive symptoms, tons of food sensitivities and bloating and constipation and just all that abdominal discomfort that can really hold you back, and seeing that resolve to where they can travel and have fun and eat foods that they really want to eat and actually enjoy life and still feel good in their bodies. And I've even seen fertility breakthroughs through this functional nutrition type work that I do, where women have been struggling to conceive, had challenges with miscarriages and things like that, and through this type work have been able to conceive their beautiful miracle rainbow babies, which is so incredibly powerful. So takeaway on that, just healing is absolutely possible. And my friend, you don't have to do it alone. All right, lesson number 8. Overthinking won't heal you, but intuition will. And let me expand on this one a little bit. So I used to spend a lot of time Googling things, which I think probably sounds familiar to many of you. I used to research everything, obsess over what foods I should be eating, and basically try to biohack my way out of pain. And over the years, especially as I had already started to shift into a whole food diet and just really cleaning things up, I realized that I was really overlooking the most powerful tool that I had, which is my own intuition. And this is true for all of us. This is not exclusive to me by any means. This is actually something I talk to my clients frequently about, listening to their own intuition. Because I often have clients coming to me asking me what foods they should be eating or not be eating, what's going to be good for their bodies and not be good for their bodies. And so often I find myself turning the table back to them. Of course, I'm helping to give some guidance on how foods work in the body. That's certainly my area of expertise, but what's also important is learning to quiet the noise and actually trust your gut, literally and figuratively, because sometimes your physical gut is giving you reactions to the food that you're eating, so that's something to be aware of. And that has really changed the way that I make choices in so many areas of life, not just with my nutrition. So simply noticing how something makes you feel, if it's something that you really want or it just feels kind of yucky to you. Our bodies have so much innate wisdom, and the more that you can tune into that and learn to really connect with that, the better you can end up feeling. So big takeaway on that one, your body already knows what to do. The real work, truly, is remembering how to listen. And honestly, that's a big part of the work that I do. So yes, I'm a functional nutritionist, so I am often sharing with people recipes and how to meal plan and ways to get more nutrients in your body. There's a lot of strategy involved in that, but there's also a lot of coaching involved as far as just helping people to listen to your own intuition, because that, my friend, is the part that I feel like is most powerful in the long term. And definitely something I want to be sharing more in future episodes of the podcast as well. Okay, lesson number 9. We're almost there. Healing your body helps you to rise in every area of life. And truly, this is the inspiration behind the name of the podcast and my brand altogether, Aligned to Rise, because it's all about bringing your body into alignment so that you can rise into the woman you really want to become. So I found initially I got into this work because I wanted to heal physically and feel better in my body. But I found over the years that as that's been happening, I'm actually able to allow myself to dream bigger, to show up more boldly, and actually step into the woman I knew I could become. So at the end of the day, it's all connected. working on things like my gut health and hormone balance and all of the things has actually allowed me to step more fully into my career, to have better connections in my life, my relationships and friendships and social life, definitely all the things. And I feel like this podcast has even been able to evolve as I've evolved. And I know that so many of you have grown right alongside with me. I love when I hear from you. Sometimes I'll receive messages and things from listeners, which is my favorite, by the way. And just getting to hear the takeaways you've had from the podcast and what you've learned and the transformations that you've had along the way. Super powerful. Because takeaway on this is that you don't just get your energy back, or you don't just get out of pain or better digestive health. What you really get as you bring your body into alignment is you get your life back. You get to actually be the person you want to be and live the life you want to live, because your body and your symptoms aren't holding you back. You get to get your life. And that, my friend, is the most powerful thing. All right, lesson number 10, and this is kind of a more personal one, but it's okay. This podcast truly has changed my life, and we're just getting started. So we are 100 episodes in, but I feel like I have hundreds of more episodes to come, because this platform has really become a space for healing, connection, and purpose. I've been able to meet some incredible guests over the last couple of years. In fact, I have multiple episodes in the books here that have already been recorded and are going to be coming out shortly that I am so incredibly excited to share. I feel like there are just so many wonderful human beings out there who are able to share these very deep conversations. And I feel more and more aligned with each episode. I'm already dreaming up the next 100 episodes, and I can't wait to walk this journey with you. And I know many of you have felt the same. I know many of you have felt heard and seen and all the things where maybe you haven't before, and that's so incredibly powerful. So if this podcast has helped you in any way, share it. If maybe you're an endo warrior and you have other friends or family members who aren't endo warriors, but maybe could really benefit from bringing themselves back into alignment, now is the time to share this podcast, because we're going to be talking about so many different topics along the way. If you know somebody who struggles with any sort of chronic symptoms, can be a diagnosis like endometriosis, PCOS, infertility. Maybe there's just chronic hormonal symptoms, feeling the ups and downs. Maybe it's all about the gut symptoms, so many different things. Share this podcast with somebody who can really be helped by it, because that share just might be the thing that can change somebody's life and really help them to find hope on their journeys. Thank you so much for staying tuned, whether this is your first episode or your 100th episode with me. I'm so thankful that you're a part of this journey. Please continue to stay tuned, subscribe to the podcast on your favorite listening platform so that you don't miss a single episode. And my friend, if you've been listening and you're feeling called to get that deeper support on your own journey and really experience all of this stuff that you've been listening to for yourself, I highly encourage you to jump into the show notes where you can find a link to book a free 30-minute consultation with me. And that is a fantastic way to really see how all of this, everything you've been learning and hearing can really connect with your own journey. I would love to chat with you. Truly, it would make my day. All right, my friend, I hope you have the most wonderful day, and we'll talk soon. Thank you so much for tuning in to Aligned to Rise. If this episode spoke to you, take a moment to share it with a friend who needs this message too. And then don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'll see you next time, my friend. Let's rise together.